Everyone.
It's so special, they make me more and more special, to be Filipino is something I take so much pride in.
We're so proud of you. We're super proud of you, Alex. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you.
Today, I extend my congratulations.
Explosive scenes at the 33rd Southeast. A historic sporting triumph was transformed into a moment that rocked the entire region during the Asian Games. Waves that extend well beyond tennis. Welcome back to our analysis of the stories that give rise to the situations that define champions and the conflicts with which others are reluctant to engage. There was more going on in Bangkok than just political strife and sports drama. It was an unprecedented, tremendous national collision. Great athletic achievement, animosity from the media, and presidential authority. Because it went beyond what few individuals ever dared to go over in the heart of everything. This was the kind of event that will be studied, discussed, and replayed for many years. 20-year-old Alexa, a young champion, and Ferdinand Bongbong, the president of the Philippines, were both in the room when the deed was carried out. Expected. We need to go back and realize the pressure cooker that was growing during these games in order to really grasp the scope of what happened. The official goals of the Southeast Asian Games were to promote unity, good sportsmanship, and local pride. In reality, though, the nation has great expectations when the host and medals are up for grabs. Emotions are prone to blowing up. Thailand's goal going into these games was to win, especially at home, where lively crowds and cozy circumstances gave them a big advantage. The National Center for Tennis Development in Bangkok, which turned into a bastion for Thai athletes and a formidable arena for their opponents, was the only place where that degree of intensity was more apparent. It was a hostile setting from the start of the tennis match. Every Thai player's rally was greeted with thunderous cheers, and visiting athletes' mistakes were acknowledged. The noise never ceased because it was so loud. In order to disrupt rhythm and confidence, players are subjected to physical pressure in the form of weight. This was hardly a subtle source of inspiration. It was situated right in the Alex and involved psychological warfare. In the middle of it was Ella, the undisputed gold favorite and best tennis player in the Philippines. Alex Eala is neither a lucky outsider nor an unexpected candidate. She is a world-class athlete who has spent years gaining recognition for her exceptional training and standing among the best athletes in the world. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain. Long before they arrived at the SEA Games, on the WTA Tour. She embodied the dreams of more than 110 million Filipinos from a young age. She also carried something even more hefty by the time she arrived in Bangkok. Since 1999, the Philippines had not won a gold medal in a women's tennis match at the SEA Games. It had become a national obsession after 26 years of waiting, and Ella was the only athlete capable of ending that drought. Ella performed with ruthless efficiency as the competition went on. In addition to winning games, she was in charge of the quarterfinals. She accurately destroyed her opponent, hardly allowing the crowd to organize against her. The same script was used in the semifinals. Her forehand was lethal, her move was deft, and her composure was unwavering. Every victory raised fear in Bangkok as much as delight at home. The venue got denser. The audience in Thai could sense what was happening. Point by point, their hopes of finding a home gold were fading. Point made by a calm, focused, and unflappable Filipino champion. The atmosphere in the stadium was electric when the final eventually came around. Ella remained hopeful as she faced Thailand's final. An overwhelming number of people support this local favorite. Every single seat was taken, spectators lined the aisles, and the drums kept pounding. Chants echoed around the arena. The loudness increase was deliberately timed to disrupt Ella's concentration each time she prepared to serve. This was more than just enthusiastic support. It was relentless pressure meant to cause her mental breakdown before she could destroy her opponent. Bongbong Marcos Jr., watching from the VIP area, the president traveled to Thailand to support the Philippine delegation. Some onlookers thought his participation was ceremonial and a typical show of support for the country. Marcos was aware of the event's larger significance, though. there was more to this than just tennis. This was about perseverance, dignity, and how a young athlete representing her country would be treated in a foreign place under tremendous pressure. It felt more like a battle than a sporting event when the gold medal was announced as soon as the game began. The Thai player was playing with a lot of energy and desperation, making money off of every yell and recovering strokes that seemed impossible. At the same time, questionable line calls began to surface from the crowd, many of them favoring the home player, and there was clear ignition and discontent among the Filipino coaching staff. The audience perceived a shift in momentum and became noticeably louder, fearing that controversy might upset the balance. What made Alexa unique at that particular moment? Respond. Instead of being sidetracked, she performed better. She stopped playing it cautiously and began striking the ball with authority, hitting wins with such precision and cleanliness that no line call could get rid of them. There was no chance for discussion because the lines were painted shot after shot. She methodically and slowly dismantled her opponent. The emotional release was too much to bear as she finally gave up the winning forehand to win the match in straight sets. Ella dropped to her knees, sobbing without control. For 26 years, the weight was removed from her shoulders. She had overcome difficult conditions, tremendous strain, and the burden of the past. The Philippines had gold. Gold. However, the arena was uncomfortable despite the victory. It was a preemptive and Chilean net handshake. During the ceremony, the award officials were anxious, attempting to hide their disappointment. Ella's voice was once loud as they handed out the gold medal. A nervous silence descended upon the assembly. Even though the game was over, the emotional roller coaster had just begun. The atmosphere suddenly shifted as reporters gathered for the post-game news conference. Press briefings are usually predictable. Many polite questions and well-prepared answers. This one seemed distinct from the start. Thai journalists' pride was damaged. Global media sensed conflict and Ella, still euphoric, sat at the podium from triumph, not suspecting the ambush. In advance, what ought to have been the memorial of greatness, was set to become an altercation that would overshadow the tournament as a whole and stir a global controversy. The attention was heavier than the atmosphere in the press briefing room in Bangkok. Rising just moments before, inside the stadium, the room was packed with reporters. Lights are shining down on cameras that are already moving. She was seated at the podium with Alex Eala. The gold medal was still around her neck. Tiredness and quiet pride were mixed together in her expression. The look of a sportsman who had just performed a recital of her life. Given the importance of the victory for her country, authorities and coaches were standing next to her, anticipating the usual questions about strategy planning. But there was something odd about the area. The energy, the four smiles, and the sharper whispering. Obviously hostile. One of the journalists was an experienced Thai reporter who was well known in the community for his aggressive tactics and hostile demeanor. He had established a reputation for a number of years as someone who did not back down from someone who liked putting powerful people on the defensive, including politicians, public workers, and business people. A young athlete in his eyes, figures have all felt the anguish of his questions. It seemed less like a winner and more like a straightforward objective following an emotional victory. He had his hand on the microphone. A number of reporters exchanged awkward glances, sensing that this would not be a typical conversation. It was clear that this was not a question as soon as he began speaking. The accusation was disguised as commentary. He started by downplaying the victory and hinting at the rivalry. Ella's gold may have been made possible by other players' ailments, as the draw had been incredibly favorable. He talked authoritatively, as if recounting the tale in real time, creating doubt where delight ought to have been. The room grew calmer as the uneasiness increased with each statement, like a slow ripple. He then started acting more aggressively. Oddly, he began officiating, suggesting that decisions could have helped Ella despite the numerous clear disagreements that had vanished throughout the championship match. It wasn't a subtle suggestion. The attempt to turn reality on its head and endanger what millions had just witnessed was known as gaslighting. A few journalists stiffened up in their seats and looked away. This wasn't a more drawn-out, challenging interrogation. This was an effort to discredit a significant achievement, But he didn't stop there. The attack turned into a personal attack. In court, he denounced Eala's actions, calling her celebrations disrespectful to the country of residence. When there had been calm, he was questioned about the sportsmanship of insinuating conceit. Each sentence was heavier than the one before it. Character is no longer the focus instead of performance. They weren't seeking an explanation. These were remarks meant to hurt, but they were accompanied by an assurance that he didn't opposition. Alex Eala's appearance changed. The smile that had persisted during the last moments of the game gradually vanished. Her eyes glistened, but the tears of joy mixed with anguish and confusion were vanished. She glanced at her coaches in need of support. However, they appeared equally astonished. When your greatest triumph is celebrated in public, how do you respond? Extracted one item at a time from beneath the journalistic cover. The room remained silent, as if immobilized, unsure of whether to act or only watch the sight.